Debugging poses a particular challenge for mbeddr in two dimensions. One dimension is that you may have to debug on different target devices depending on the kind of device you develop software for. That can be achieved by exchanging the debugger backend, and we do that through the Eclipse CDT debug bridge. And the other way is, of course, to write your software in a way so that it can be run on a PC, and you can work with a regular GDB debugger, which is what we include by default. And of course, by defining suitable language extensions, this is feasible. We talked about the registers extension earlier, I think. I certainly recorded it earlier. The other challenge is that mbeddr has extensible languages, and of course you want to be able to debug on the level of the extension. So let us look at some code here. Here is a test case. That test case initializes a track point, and then it calls this process method on the interface. But of course, when you debug this, you want to jump into whatever implementation of that interface is wired up, right? So we know here that the n here, this adapt points the n into the processor port of the nuller instance, which is of course this component. So let's see what happens if and when we debug this. Let's go back to the test case. Let's set a breakpoint right here, and let us run the debugger. To do so, we first have to define a run configuration. We go to the plus sign, select an mbeddr binary, specify some name, I don't know, whatever, mbeddr tutorial debug demo, and then we have to select the executable, which, as I think I know, is also called mbeddr tutorial, and we need the one from the default extensions. Unfortunately, they both have the same name, but we use the qualified name like this. So we've defined the run configuration, and we can now run this in the debugger. Press the little bug thing here, and takes a little while until it starts up. So now we're at the breakpoint inside this test case. And for example, the TP is already initialized. You can see the values of the members of the struct. You can see all the instance configurations that have been instantiated. We have come through the main function, which we can see right here. And the main function, of course, sees all these other instance configurations. So let's go back right here. So you've already seen the nice stack frame view. And we can now go into, right? We go into this function, and by going into, we actually do turn out in the nuller instance, and we can see the p thing, right, which is the argument we get here, which has these values. We can then jump over this setting to null, and as we can see, the altitude has been changed to null, and we can jump out again. So you get the point. There is a debugger. The debugger works on the level of the extension. We are finished with with defining the debugger for most of our extensions. And of course, if you define your own extensions, you can define your own debugger. You have a domain-specific variables view. It includes the physical units and other, Booleans and all of these things that are mbeddr specific. And of course, you have stack frames, and you can step into, step out of, and step over. So I guess this finishes this very brief introduction to the mbeddr debugger.